and welcome back to the Digital Community Builders web series. I'm Rachel Putman, Associate Director of Strategic Communications at the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. And today we are talking about one of my absolute favorite subjects, student voices in higher ed social media. I am joined today by 4 amazing students from universities across the country, and as we realized this week, across several time zones. And so first, I am going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. So ladies, just tell me your name, your year in school, your major, and what you do at your university. I'm going to go clockwise on my screen. So we'll start with Shandricka.
Hi, my name is Shandricka Mcculla. I am a senior media communication major at University of Arkansas, Fort Smith, and I am the social media and communication student worker.
And Alyssa?
Hi, I'm Alyssa Osman. I am a communications major at Youngstown State University, and I'm a junior. I'm the social media assistant in the marketing department.
Great. Bethany?
Hi, I'm Bethany Bullock. I'm at Brigham Young University. I'm a junior, and I'm the social media specialist, student social media specialist. There's just 2 of us, but so we kind of do everything. But anyway.
And then Abby.
Hey everyone, my name is Abby Cloud. I'm a senior at Florida State University, and I am currently interning as the editing, writing, and media intern with New Student Family Programs.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. And so the first thing I kind of want to talk about is what your average week looks like. So Abby, I know you're in a departmental sort of area, and so that's really fun. And I'd just love to hear from all of you about what your day-to-day looks like, what you do, every week, and maybe if you have long-term assignments or weekly assignments, what do you do for your department on a daily basis?
So I know for me, it's honestly a mix of projects. So a lot of the consistent things we have are like reoccurring video like content. We do a series called 18 Questions in 51 Seconds, which is like a play on our founding year. FSU was founded in 1851. So we like ask one question and we record an answer from a student in 51 seconds. That's something consistent we do. And we just do a lot of like programming and stuff like that. So that's typically what I'm making graphics for. Additionally, as far as content goes, we also do monthly newsletters. So that's what I mainly find myself doing within my department.
So I started in the marketing department about 2 years ago. When I first started, I was doing just kind of content creation. On the Instagram story, we do weekly things like This Week at YSU. I would do that every Monday. Now, as the years go on, I started doing more like competitor analysis, social media audits for different departments and colleges or university, things like that. Day to day, it's just kind of doing campaigns and things. We just had a TikTok contest, so it's a lot of fun and creativity.
I know for me, I have a few weekly projects. One thing that I do every week is I do a profile on a student or employee on campus. We call them Friday features. So I pick someone out earlier in the week, I interview them, and then I post it on Fridays. But other than that, I'm lucky enough to be able to create a lot of my own tasks that I want to do. And so I just say, hey, like, I have this idea, I want to do this. And we're just like, cool, yeah, do that. And so.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think for me, the most consistent thing I have is I primarily am in charge of our takeover series called My View from BYU. And we have different individuals on campus, whether they're students or faculty, and then we also do alumni, where they just kind of share a day in their life, and then they answer questions and share their unique experience at BYU. And so I primarily just search for people, reach out to people, train them for the takeovers, and then do the analysis afterward of how it went. Other than that, we work together as a team, putting together strategy and content, and we just kind of tag team it all together.
Yeah. Is everybody part of a team? Or any of you by yourselves? No. good. I love that.
As far as like social media content, I kind of am the only intern in my office, but I work a lot with our graduate assistants and graduate interns to like get information and like come up with ideas and brainstorm and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. So all of you have such different sort of paths to social media content creation. And so I would love to hear from you about either a big idea that you brought to the table or something you feel like was executed really well. I know a lot of you are doing a little bit of analysis or maybe even some deep dives into analysis. Is there anything that surprised you that, you know, was your idea and turned out really well, or even maybe not so well?
So for me, something that we do as a department, when I was a freshman, we started the social media ambassador program. So that's been really awesome. And I started as a social media ambassador since I work in the office as well. So I've kind of helped keep the ball rolling with that, just like welcoming new ambassadors, giving people ideas of what to post, because sometimes it could be challenging, especially with coronavirus and everything going on. It's hard to find things to talk about. So for me, that's been going really well, and I'm really excited to see where the program goes from here.
I know for me, a significant experience as part of this job, I'm going to try to keep this story short, but when I was first interviewed for the job, I am a public relations major. I didn't mention that earlier. I wasn't in the program yet. It was my first semester in college, and somehow I had gotten in touch with John McBride, who was the social media manager at BYU at the time. And so I interviewed for the job, fully unqualified, and they asked me a really difficult question in the interview regarding some of the things going on campus regarding the way people report sexual assault. And that was a very, very tricky topic on our campus. It was a very hard topic to navigate. And I kind of shot out an answer that just felt right. I was really put on the spot. And then once I was hired, we started to kind of develop content and ideas based off of what I had approached and what I had said in my interview. And as the years went on, we continued this, and eventually we did a full campaign on the topic. And John McBride actually won an award as a result of that campaign. And he was very gracious in kind of reaching out to me and just saying, this couldn't have been without just you mentioning this in your interview. And I think this kind of can go down kind of where this whole panel is headed, but that definitely contributes to the value of students. We have crazy ideas, and he said, when you first mentioned your idea, we honestly thought you were crazy. you didn't know much of what you were talking about, but we took a chance, and we're so glad we did. And so anyway, that was a project that was very important to me, as well as a project where I realized the value that every voice has, even an unqualified freshman.
Yeah, I know exactly the series that you're talking about. That's one of my absolute favorite series. I will link to it in the comments when this video posts. It is so inspiring. John has spoken so highly of his students who worked on that campaign. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that was?
What I said in the interview, or just the campaign?
Yeah, the campaign, like how it finally all came together and what that meant for students. If you heard any feedback from students about having that really direct contact about a really sensitive issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So we first started developing the content in 2016, 2017. And then I mentioned this before we started recording, but I took a 2-year break from school and from this job to serve a mission for my church. And so I wasn't there when the campaign and the series really was put out, but I was before I left, I was very involved in the process of hiring the person that would replace me. And it was actually one of my really, really good friends. And so we would talk about the content, we'd talk about this series on a very regular basis in very intimate settings, just brainstorming and trying to figure out what the best approach is. And so I felt very involved, although I wasn't necessarily there to see the fruits of all of that labor. So I honestly particularly can't tell you what the outcomes were, just because I wasn't on campus and I was I was elsewhere doing other things. But at least from my own experience, when I got home and when I came back on campus, I had a friend that was sharing about her own experiences, and she said that series really helped her in approaching that difficult experience of hers. So that's just one takeaway.
Yeah. So does anyone else want to talk about some other big projects?
I know for me, I didn't start working here until last semester. And one of the first things I even asked Rachel to do was if I could make Spotify playlists for the university. And I didn't really know how that was gonna go. I actually saw another university do it and I was like, I can do this. And so I just started looking at different buildings on campus and I was thinking about the vibes they gave off. And I didn't know how it would turn out. I didn't even know if people would like it, but there are so many people on campus now that have I don't know what you call it on Spotify, the playlist, or they constantly listen to these playlists. I'm like, that's so cool, because I didn't know that people would even actually like them.
Yeah, the fact that you said vibe is such an awesome thing for me as a social media manager and as a communications director, because that is one of the things I love most about having student workers, is that you guys can see things that are so beyond my level. And so when Shandricka said, I'm thinking about these Spotify playlists and I'm thinking about the vibes of the buildings. And so I was thinking about, a heavy metal kind of workout playlist for the Recreation and Wellness Center, which we call the RAWC, RAWC. And I said, what if you asked our chancellor if she would help? And Shandricka, do you want to talk a little bit about her playlist and the popularity of her playlist?
So our chancellor's name's Dr. Riley, and she's a phenomenal woman. And so everyone loves her. And so when Rachel was like, ask Dr. Riley, I was like, she's going to love this. And so she was just like, of course, I'll love to share the music I listen to in my playlist. And she's really involved on social media. So I kind of already knew the kind of music she listened to, because if I tweeted a Frank Ocean lyric, she'd reply to it. And so she just sent me some artists, and I made this playlist for her and I sent it to her and I was like, here it is. And she approved it and she loved it. And now it's the one that has the most listeners. And people love that playlist. And I think that's so cool. And because it kind of shows the impact that she has on the students and staff here.
Yeah, I love that. Love that so much. So I think, Bethany, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the value a student voice brings to things. So whether it's fun things, one of my favorite student worker experiences was when I first pitched having a university TikTok. I sent Shandricka's predecessor, her name was Taylor, out into the field to kind of get an idea of how students felt. And she came back and she was like, you know what, they hate it. And I was like, oh, so why? And she said, they don't think that you'll be fun. And I was so hurt. And I was like, I'm not fun. And they said, TikTok is just so fun. They're worried it won't be fun. And so I said, okay, well, what if we think about a strategy that's very platform specific? And, we use most of our platforms at UAFS for storytelling. And so we're sharing stories about our students, whether they're long form or short form. Pretty much anything we post is a story besides, events. And so I thought, well, what if this one is just totally different? And it just is fun. And it's just what TikTok is made for, just silly and fun and lighthearted. Do you think we could do it then? And so she went back, and now a few of those people who said, I don't think you should have a TikTok, tell her no, are some of our biggest contributors, because we've proven that it is fun. And So I'd love to hear about how, if you guys have had any experiences kind of proving ideas, even if they sound a little crazy. And so that can be fun, but also, Bethany, I know yours was a pretty deep topic, tackling sexual assault on campus and bringing to light something that isn't positive, that is negative, but addressing it and talking about it. So if you guys want to kind of talk about any experiences you have bringing a voice to things.
So this kind of goes in with our TikTok strategy. We didn't really know either how to approach TikTok as a university because it is such a different platform and a different audience. But we knew we wanted to do it because it would be for prospective students. So this is kind of like the impact of having student workers, at your disposal, or there to just jump on board with anything. Myself and my coworkers were just ready to make fun videos, so we would just throw on our mascot is Pete the Penguin. So I would just throw on the Pete costume and do a TikTok dance outside on campus. And it was always so fun. And, since COVID, we kind of stopped doing that. We did more of an at-home type of feel for videos. But I can't wait till we can get back on campus and do those kind of fun things, because that's always something that we're, willing to do, all hands on deck, able to do those fun TikTok videos that everyone loves.
I think something for my department, in regards to bringing a student voice, is not only me being able to communicate with my supervisors and the other grad assistants in the program. Not only am I bringing my voice and saying, oh, this would be interesting, introducing TikTok and Spotify playlists to different programs and stuff housed under new student family programs, but it's also about, I think, highlighting more students on our social media like we didn't before. So by having me, for example, I guess as a student, knowing my friends, knowing other orientation leaders who have worked with new student family programs in different capacities, just bringing their stories and their experience to our platform in order to connect with students further, and have student questions answered by students, or student commentary directly responded to by students. And so that was a big part of our 18 questions in 51 seconds program that we did, or campaign rather. And it was really cool because we have a variety of different questions we've answered, from how do you vote as a student on campus, or how can I get an internship? The goal was to answer really frequently asked questions, but have them answered by a student who has had that same experience, who has gone through the process of finding an internship, what resources they suggest, and what places they suggest you go to vote at, and things like that, and how you get there. So I think the importance of having student voices navigating social media is also bringing other students into the process as well.
I'd just like to echo that. And we have regular meetings, just our team. It's me, one other student, and then our social media manager, and then the other person that's over her. And we talk regularly, and I've always felt like me as a student, my voice is valued just as much as anyone else. And so just having that environment has been extremely helpful. And that's just been a common thread through all of our strategy, that I've always felt like student voice is heard and it's valued. But in addition to that, at BYU, we have a social media street team that meets once a month. And what it is you can't have enough student voice, basically. And so, yes, there's 2 social media students, but what we do is we gather diverse voices on campus. So we try to seek out people that have diverse opinions, that are representative of everyone on campus, rather than just the 2 that we have in our office. And we meet together and we ask them specific questions regarding our strategy, how we can improve, how we can reach people. And that, like I said, it's just been a thread through all of our strategy. I can't necessarily pull some big ideas from it, because it's absolutely shifted everything we've done in big and small ways. So that's been really helpful for us.
Thank you guys for talking about all of those ideas. I love that so much. And I love, Abby, what you said about students trusting students and trusting student experience. I'm sure as content creators, that's something that you guys are bringing to the table, even subconsciously. Does anyone want to talk about inviting other students into the fold and maybe comfort level?
I can touch on that a little bit. Like I said earlier, I write Friday features every week and I put them out on Fridays. And so I talk to students and employees a lot. And I've had students tell me things that, like, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like you'd say that. And I'm like recording you and you want me to write this down and like put this out. And like they're okay with it. And I've even had employees kind of like throw me off a little bit on like what they'll say to me, because like the comfort level, because I'm a student, like talking to a student, or like just because I'm a student, so they're like, oh, like it's a little bit more comfortable than like talking to someone that is more of like an authority figure to them. And so bringing students like into the office, I'm like, hey, like I always start and say like, it's just talk to me like we're having a conversation. Like I'm going to ask you these questions and some of them may be hard, but like just talk to me like we're sitting down having a conversation. And they do. And like I pull so much out of them by just asking them these questions.
I think that's an art form. Being able to just pull stories out of people, magnify the experiences that they've had. And that's really what our role is as communicators, trying to do storytelling, trying to help people feel that connection. I know for me, like I mentioned before, I primarily train and organize all of the takeovers on our account. So just a full day takeover on our story from students. And what I do is I usually block out an hour before, like the week before, to train these students. And at the beginning, I just ask them questions and just kind of get to know them, get their story. And most of the time through that experience, they really open up and I'm able to identify things that can add value to our community that they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And because it's so casual and because it's just peer to peer, like Shandricka was saying, it's far more comfortable where they're willing to just open up, and then it gives them that confidence to open up to the entire campus community. And then it's just another ripple effect where other students are willing to open up to them and DM our account to ask questions and to relate to each other and get mentorship. And so it keeps going, and there's a beautiful benefit to that.
Yeah, I think we call that art form journalism, right? Like we're all kind of journalists a little bit. I came to higher ed from the journalism field, and it's definitely the thing that I notice most when I'm looking for student workers, who can tell a story, but also who can listen. I think that's so important.
With using student voices to kind of, make everyone comfortable, and just kind of helping freshmen and new students come in, and everyone's feeling a little bit anxious. We started using Zeme as a platform. I don't know if you guys have heard of Zeme, but it's for like high school students. And we have 2 influencers. It's just me and another ambassador, and we talk to these students. Actually, after this, I have to do a live event with them. So we're doing like a trivia night, and they all talk and just like open up, and it's so comfortable. And we kind of try to make it a space just for students so that they could ask us questions, and we get to know them and tell them a little bit about campus. And they really, appreciate that more than talking to like a counselor or an advisor, because it's just more of an open space for them to let out some anxiety.
Yeah, that's a great point about those one-on-one conversations. Do you feel like there's some trust too that maybe isn't there with someone they know is selling?
Yeah, I definitely feel like they, because because I'll be, honest with them, just being like, oh, if you have this going on, make sure you talk to this person, and you're definitely going to feel this way if this happens, but it's okay, it's normal. It's just kind of a real conversation rather than like marketing and, trying to sell them to go to the university.
To echo Alyssa's point about like incoming students and new families, with new student family programs, that's primarily like our audience, our new students and their families. And so new student family programs is home to orientation and the orientation leaders. And I started my internship in the fall of 2019. And that following spring is, of course, when like all campuses went remote. There was a lot of like scurrying to get everything to an online platform. And that included our orientation modules. And our team did a wonderful job. Our like supervisors did a great job of shifting all of those months of work around like in 4 months to making it all online. And I was really lucky to like be there in the midst of it all and like help them create a virtual or like online platform to reach out to incoming students, because they were losing such a great deal of in-person communication and like in-person interaction, because orientation leaders serve as like those gateways to the community, to the campus, and they provide a lot of support for students in person specifically. So it was very interesting trying to, use the online tools and social media tools to mimic that relationship. And so that was just a really fun experience, honestly, like just kind of experimenting with different Instagram templates, like bingo cards and like fill-in templates, things like that. I also came up with fun ways for students to get to know orientation leaders, because that's such a big part of like being on an orientation team. You're like, oh, so-and-so is my orientation leader. I was on this team. This was our name. And so it was really fun. I did like fun little games, like 2 truths and a lie. Orientation leaders would like submit them and people could like interact and say like, oh, I think this is the lie. 3 facts about me, and you had to guess who the orientation leader was, things like that. So that was just kind of a fun way to get students involved in like interacting with our Instagram, our social media, and getting to know the program and like the department itself.
That is so great, Abby. I love that. We have had Drika actually made us some bingo cards, and before Drika was my student worker, she was just a student that I knew on campus, and I asked her for some suggestions for one of our bingo cards. And sorry, Drika, but her suggestion was, I've fallen up the stairs in the math science building. And I thought that was so funny. And I was like, if Drika said it, it must be so common. And those aren't stairs I go up very often. I'm an elevator gal. And I put it on the bingo card. And almost every person who shared the bingo card had it circled and like pointed to and like had drawn on it, like this one, this is the one. And so I love knowing small things and sort of integrating those small things in small interactive ways. Is there any other ways that you guys have found interactives? I know Alyssa's using Zeme to have those one-on-one interactions. Do you guys want to talk about any sort of one-to-one interactions you have on social?
I think with me, even just the the Instagram questions, we put out things sometimes. We're like, hey, ask us about this. And there's a girl, and I talked to her for a long time on our university account, and she actually ended up following me on Instagram and asked me more questions later. And so I think that because like when I introduced like, hi, I'm Drika, like if you need any help, and like she just ended up finding me. And so now anytime she like needs anything, she just DMs me. She's like, hey, like I don't know how to do this. And I think that because I reached out to her when she said she needed help, she just felt so comfortable to come find me on Instagram and continue the conversation.
I think that what helps us a lot is with the ambassador program, there's 17 of us now. So we kind of, are a gateway, like if you're interested in this, look at this person, and this person is in Greek life, and this person does fundraising for Relay for Life. And, it just is kind of a good way to show people like oh, there are a lot of opportunities on this campus in this small town in Ohio. And there's like, a lot of things that you could do to get involved and a lot of opportunities to be successful.
I know for us, we always say that our takeovers are kind of the bread and butter of our social media strategy. Truly, that's how we gain as much one-on-one interaction as possible. It's become this pattern. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is by being consistent with your strategy, not spreading yourself thin and doing a ton of different things because people don't necessarily know how to handle that. But by being consistent, then they know exactly how to respond to that. And because our takeovers, we've been doing them since 2016, people know at this point now that they can DM our account and have an answer. And so I think the consistency has been key for us. And then also just lately with COVID and everything like that, we've definitely shifted our strategy to putting out the important institutional messages to reach students. And we've been really quick in our response rate in answering those questions. And so people know now that our Instagram and our social media is a resource to have answers. But again, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent in the messaging we put out and then how fast and how effective we are in responding back.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Shandricka on the spot again. Do you want to talk a little bit about our Mental Health Mondays and how sort of that consistency has led to some DMs that are coming in on a consistent basis and some interaction that's happening on a consistent basis?
Yeah, so we, like she said, we do Mental Health Mondays. And so every Monday we'll post a graphic and it's like, tell us how you're feeling. And so you can like slide it to an emoji on how you're feeling or like a number on like how you're feeling. Or even sometimes we put the question on there like, tell us what's going on or how we can help you. And so when people reply to these things, either myself or Rachel will reply to them and like, hey, like I saw that you said that you were at a 3 today. Like what's going on? What's up? How can we help you feel better than a 3? Or like if they say, well, I'm having trouble registering for my classes and that's like why I'm struggling. So we connect them with the right people. And so that's one of the ways that we create that like bond between like us and the students. And that's another way that we connect with them because they know that, okay, well, if I don't know where else to turn, at least I can like DM the UAFS Instagram and they'll help me out.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. It can be heavy. And I think, I know Bethany and some of your takeovers, I've seen some of the questions get heavy or some of the topics get heavy. And that's one of the great things about having that trust and that student to student contact and interview style is that they're willing to say when things are tough. And that builds so much trust and so much equity and value for the university, for the social media accounts, to know that they're going to tell you when things are tough. One of the hardest things for a lot of universities, and as Shandricka said, we have a really wonderful chancellor who is so empathetic. So it wasn't the case for us, but I know for a lot of my peers, was hearing students say, I'm struggling, and having the university say, you're fine, think positive, we can all do it online, it's great, you can take your classes online, right? And so, some of our, this was before Shandricka was a student worker for me, but some of our Friday features during the transition from COVID were with some majors that really didn't transition to online well. And so we had a music major who talked about how difficult it was to really do music classes online and how to learn his instrument better online, and sharing like, you're not alone. It's tough. And for some people, it's very tough. And one of the stories was someone who was like, our SGA president was saying, it's actually great for me. I am so involved and so invested. I have so much more time now that I'm not physically in classes. So I can do this on my own time. I can do this when I have availability. Have any of you seen that kind of response, like I can be a little more open?
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. When the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, we obviously were strategically just letting those very important conversations happen. And so we were trying to think of ways where we could be strategically helpful in that conversation and how we can help navigate that conversation in our own community and campus. And something that was very interesting for us, just kind of a case study for us in a way, was we featured as a takeover a Black student, and she shared how hard it was being Black at BYU. And for that messaging to be coming from BYU's account, that would have been unheard of years ago. Any PR person, whether they're at BYU or not, that would have been unheard of, to have someone from your own community saying something negative about who they're representing and, on their account. But it was so effective. It was so beautiful to see how people connected, but also to help people realize that BYU itself is not trying to shy away, that we're trying to embrace this conversation and we're trying to listen and understand. And so it built so much trust just by being open and letting those voices be heard as sanctioned by the university itself. And so I think that was a very powerful example. Obviously, I feel bad. I feel like I keep on bringing up kind of the heavier topics, but over at BYU, it kind of sometimes feels like that's what we're dealing with a lot of the time. And so we're leaning into that, and we're not trying to shy away from it.
And Bethany, how large is BYU? I think that we are at UAFS and we have about 6,500 students. So tell us a little bit about how large your institution is too. And Alyssa and Abby, share that with us as well.
Yeah, I think we have, I hope I have this number right. It's over 3,600 students. So very large campus community, but in addition, BYU is a very, very interesting organization, institution. It's not only a university, but we are affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so as a result of that, it's a worldwide church, and we have members, millions of members all over the world. And BYU is kind of it. You know about BYU if you're a member of the church. And so not everyone that's part of our church comes to BYU, and we have people that aren't a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. Plenty of people that aren't members of the church at our school. But because of that, our community isn't just students and alumni. It's people that never have been to BYU, never will go to BYU, but they are invested. And so it's a very, very interesting community with a lot of diversity, and a lot more than people necessarily assume as well.
So I don't know exact numbers. We're very small, somewhere between 10 and 15,000 students. So, the campus is small as well. I mean, it's 160 acres, something like that. So, but we're really a close-knit kind of community, and I really appreciate that about our campus.
And I just had to do a quick Google search and I looked, and FSU is just over 40,000 students. So kind of I suppose that's relatively bigger, especially with the numbers that Alyssa just stated. But yeah, FSU is particularly large. I think for our social media and our outreach for new student family programs, it really helps that we can narrow it down to a specific audience of incoming students, transfer students, and their families as well. Which of course we're still trying to appeal to any student at FSU, but it does help that we can narrow down that audience for us.
Yeah. And Bethany, I think you said, I said 6,500, which is 6,500. And I think BYU is 33,000. So we're by far the smallest.
Yes.
And
yes.
then, yeah.
36,000.
Yeah.
So it's big.
That's big compared to us. And so, yeah, I think it's UAFS and then Youngstown and then BYU and FSU are both large to us. But
this is why we're doing social media. Numbers are not math people.
Yeah. Good with the words. So for this next question, we'll go sort of in the order that we first started. Shandricka, Alyssa, Bethany, and then Abby. And I'd like you all to answer these next two questions because I think it's really important and I think it'll add a lot of value. And we'll kind of close with these two. So there are a lot of campus professionals who still don't have student workers, who don't have student workers in their offices or maybe have never had the budget to hire a student worker and feel pretty nervous about it. And especially, I think that's compounded with COVID because maybe they don't have the time or the physical presence to engage with student workers. And so I'd really love for each of you to talk about just what you enjoy about your job, what you think someone who is nervous about hiring a student worker should know. And if you have any tips for someone who is afraid to ask a student worker, like if you would like to work for me. I think a couple of you talked about replacing yourselves, and that's something I asked Rika to do as well. All of my student workers I ask to try to replace themselves and see if they can find someone new. So maybe even how you go about doing that or thinking about that.
I guess I start. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. I guess it's just, I really like my job for a lot of reasons. I get to, like I said earlier, I get to do a lot of things. Like I get to pitch a lot of ideas for Rachel, and then like she says yes and I run with it. And so I really like that part of it. I think that someone should want to have a student worker because we touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's easier for people to connect with students, like other students. It's easier for you to connect with other students. And so I don't know how comfortable people would be with like Rachel interviewing them for a Friday feature. I don't know how much they would open up, but they open up to me a lot because like we're on the same level. Like, yeah, I'm sitting in this office asking you questions, but I'm still like, I'll see you in class on Tuesday. And so it's like, it almost feels like it's not as serious if it's coming from me. Like it's not as heavy or like, because like I'm not their authority figure. And so I think that students get a lot more from student workers than they would from other people, I guess. And kind of like what Rachel mentioned earlier, like I could like tell her about the vibes different buildings on campus had, but like Rachel wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, the library has like this kind of vibe. But like I've spent a lot of time in the library or like our campus center or like other places on campus. So like I know the kind of vibes they give,
the kind of people that are like the kind of music people are listening in those places. And so I think hiring a student worker is, especially working in social media, because a lot of us are in that Gen Z stage. And so like the digital age, and like we're living in a digital age, and so many of us grew up with social media. And so like, of course we know how to work it. It's all we've ever known. And so I think that if there's anybody that like is best to be helping someone out with social media, it would be like a student worker, someone that's handling it every single day in their personal lives, not just professional.
So working under Katie for the past 2 years has actually taught me more than I've learned in like my classes, because it's actually hands-on experience and getting that just like real world, like, oh, this is what it's like. And she just kind of taught me to, before you react, sit back and think about what's going on, especially on social media. And she taught me basically to always add value to the conversation instead of noise. That's like one of the most important things that she's taught me. So I feel like just, being in the office for so long, I've become very comfortable with her. I'm able to ask her advice about professional life and personal life, as well as just, where to go from here in any situation. So, being an advisor, as Katie is, you kind of become a mentor. And I think that would be really rewarding. And that's something that I could see myself doing after college. So that's something that someone should know about hiring a student employee.
I'll go ahead. Alyssa, I completely agree. Even just the add value, not noise phrase, I hear that all the time. And I think, first, I want to echo what you said. I've been able to find so much mentorship, and I've felt so empowered because of this role and the people I work with. And dare I say, just a very deep friendship with my boss and my advisors. And I just feel like I have people to go to for questions, whether it's professional or personal. And I hope that's fulfilling for them as well. But it seriously has been, it's made my entire BYU experience what it is. And so anyway, wow, I'm getting kind of teary. But honestly, there's a great benefit for the students themselves, but also if there are fears, that's valid, And I think the best thing to do is to just identify what those fears are, identify the needs that your office has, that you have, that your strategy has, and then when you go in to interview students, just find the right people. Because there's people on the campus, and pretty much like what Shandricka was saying, there are a lot of students, pretty much all of them, that are Gen Z that know how to work social media. You can't really go wrong. Everyone, there's some soft skills of understanding social media, but we just have, for the most part, most people are qualified enough to understand social media. And so you have a wide range of pick of what students to hire and what route to take. And so just identify your needs and find the right people, and you will find them.
I know for me, like what has made this experience really valuable for me as a student, and like how it would be valuable for other students as well, is that I am a double major in advertising and editing, writing, and media at FSU. So like this has been a complete hands-on experience, and just working under my supervisors, Pearson and Allison, they have allowed me to grow and experiment, honestly, and do something that like I never really had the potential to do before stepping into the Office of New Student and Family Programs. And so I've gotten to like task myself with making different graphics, pitching ideas to Pearson and Allison, and working with grad assistants, grad interns for different content that they need, because they see me as that reliable student. And I am the only student like in the office that does like make graphics, that does like the editorial writing. So like it's been really nice to kind of like dabble in a little bit of everything and just kind of like see where my focus lies. And like it's just really been a really big growing experience, like to the point where I've structured my future like career path, like college endeavors, towards student affairs and working with like the programming and marketing aspect of it. And so also from a logistics standpoint, I think that having an intern or just a student in the office to work with social media would take a big load off of any other like faculty or staff within the office as well, because I know I've heard Pearson and Allison and like other people talk about, social media in itself is a full-time job, especially with like COVID and everything. You realize just how important it is and just how much time it does take up, especially in a workplace, especially at a university. And so I think it's just really important to recognize that and make sure that you have someone there doing it like relatively full-time. Obviously an intern is not full-time, but like just having someone there dedicated to making this content and, getting it out there, posting it out there, and interacting with followers. So I think it's a good incentive to say like it does take a load off like any faculty and staff. They don't have to do it as a side job. They don't have to like spend their nights like making graphics or anything. Like they can have someone there to do that as well.
You guys are all so impressive, and I love hearing how much value you've gotten from your positions. And so to close it out, I just want to hear a little bit, recap how long you've been working in social media, and then tell me where you're headed, like what you have thought about for your future, and if you'd like, a little bit about how your position on campus has helped shape those future goals. And we'll go in that same order.
So I've been running social media accounts since my sophomore year. So it's been about 3 years. But I didn't start working for Rachel until last semester in about September. I plan on going to get my master's in higher ed. And so I am, I am headed right in this direction. I don't know exactly what I want to do in higher ed. I have thrown around the idea of working in marketing communications for a university, but so we'll see. So this job has really like helped me figure out, like, give me a little idea of where I want to go.
Okay, so I've been working with the Office of Marketing and Communications for 2 years now. So from here, I don't know if I want to go into social media exactly. I kind of broke out of my shell through this position and started getting more involved on campus. I really enjoy the aspect of leadership positions and kind of building people up to, you know, being successful and things like that. So I kind of want to do something more maybe within student affairs or just mentorship in general. And hopefully I will end up in a marketing communications department leading a team. I don't know where that will bring me, but this has definitely shaped my future in any aspect or any field that I end up going with.
That's awesome, Melissa. Let's see. I started this job, like I mentioned before, my freshman year. That was in 2016. Then I took the 2-year break, and then now I'm back. So I'm a junior. So I'll graduate next April. And so, yeah, that's how long I've been working on social media. So 3 years about. And then I would say I'm still slightly unsure as to what I want to do necessarily, but this job has answered a lot of questions. It has also given me access to people that can answer more questions. So the girl that kind of I replaced in a way, so that's how I got the job. She was graduating, told me that I should apply and that I should interview for it. And then she went off on her way. She's at a PR agency in New York. And through the years, she's kind of been this mentor for me. And so right now in my junior year, I'm trying to get an internship for this summer. And I've talked to her a lot, and she's connected me to a lot of different people. And I feel like I've built this network solely based off of the people that she's recommended to me. And it's given me a lot of opportunity to get questions answered, to see what opportunities lie once I graduate. So if anything, it's just given me people and this network of people to lean on, to be built up by, and to have questions answered.
So I have been interning with new student family programs, or working with like social media, since the fall of 2019, so just under 2 years. And honestly, in the future, I'm a senior right now, but I'm in my 3rd year at FSU. So I'm starting to think about graduation, like post-graduation plans. And for the remainder of my time at FSU, I do intend on pursuing at least one more internship in some aspect of student affairs programming or marketing, just to fulfill an internship requirement and to get additional experience on campus. And then after graduation, I have definitely been interested in pursuing a degree in higher education, or specifically student affairs, in order to gain that experience and hopefully wind up like in a marketing and like programming department or position within a student affairs office.
I can say that I am thrilled for the future of higher ed. If any of you go into higher ed, but if all 4 of you go into higher ed fields, we will just be so lucky. And I hope that you all continue telling stories and just inviting people to share their lives with you and helping them know their value and their value to your institutions. So that's all we have for you today. We hope that you have gathered some wonderful information, and I hope that no one is afraid of hiring student workers, because as you can see, the benefits are just unmatched. So join us on, today is Friday, and so we will be having the chats, and I'll be in the comments answering any questions. So if you have questions about my student workers or about the process or anything involved in that, we are here to help. We are so thankful that you have listened, and go build more communities. Thank you.